Most wheat farmers in the country have never used a pre-emerge herbicide before, and we just think it's incredibly important. I don't care what crop you're raising, corn, soybeans, or even wheat, even when we're talking winter wheat, having a good residual herbicide can be really important if you want great weed control. The thing is, you got to decide right away, are we after grasses or are we after broadleaves? Because there are some different products depending on what your target weed is.
Well, if you're planting winter wheat, a big key to being successful is getting a good stand established and not having all kinds of weed competition out there stopping you. So for me, I just look at the broadleaf weeds right off the bat and say, all right, I've got a broadleaf weed problem. Maybe it's kochia. For a lot of farmers in wheat, they say, what can I do to stop kochia? Okay, that's a real tough one, but there are also areas of the country that are fighting other broadleaf weeds. The best broad spectrum broadleaf herbicide that I know of pre-emerge is Sharpen. You can use a pretty good strong rate before wheat, and you can get good residual through the fall and get you up until winter without having a broadleaf issue out in your field. Then when you look at having to spray different herbicides, you may be able to avoid some of the harsh herbicides like 2,4-D, for example, that gets used to control some of the tougher weeds in wheat.
All right, with Sharpen, you can go with an ounce rate. A lot of people do that. It's okay for burn down, but even there, it might be a little bit weak. It's kind of a low rate. It's about $5, or you can bump it up, spend $10 an acre, and get better weed control and longer residual. Now, you're not going to have residual all the way until next July or anything like that, but you're going to have good residual to get your wheat started this fall, and once you get that great stand established, then your wheat crop itself is going to choke out a lot of weeds.
All right, so broadleaf weeds are one thing, but let's face it, most of the concern in a grass crop like wheat is how do I control the tough grasses? Maybe I've got cheatgrass out there, or maybe I just have heavy foxtail pressure, could be jointed goat grass. There's a number of different grass weeds that are problems in different wheat growing areas around the country. And so we think about a lot of those products that get used post-emerge. Well, for the tough grasses, it's almost all ALS herbicides. So when we think about a pre-emerge herbicide, if you can use something other than an ALS, that would be a nice option. There is a relatively new herbicide that's out called Zidua that's from the group 15. So instead of being a group 1 or a group 2, where most of the grass herbicides in wheat are from, we actually can use a group 15 now, which would be a similar group or similar products to what are being used in cornfields around the country.
So the advantage to this again is we've got a different mode of action. And yes, it might not be this group 15 Zidua, might not be completely lights out on all your grasses, but it is pretty good on many grasses, and it does have some activity on many different broadleaves. So if you can kind of change things up, especially if you're in a continuous wheat rotation, this is probably a good way to go.
All right, the other ones that we talk about for pre-emerge herbicides, we get a lot of ALS type products. A real common one that's being used that's pretty inexpensive is called Prepare. It's basically the chemistry that's in Everest, just without a crop safener because you're putting it out pre-emerge on the soil. Prepare does a good job on some non-ALS resistant broadleaf weeds, but mainly we're putting it out there for grass weeds. It has suppression on cheatgrass, so don't wait till next spring. You have to get that cheatgrass and tough winter annual grass control done now.
One last thing I guess I'd mention is make sure you have a good burn down. You want to start clean. So you might have to use Roundup, you might have to throw in one of these other herbicides that we just talked about, whether it's Sharpen to help with the burn down or Prepare. Zidua doesn't have any burn down activity, but you certainly could throw that in with a Roundup if you wanted to. But again, the real key here is trying to get these weeds under control now. We want a good burn down, a good pre-emerge herbicide, follow post-emerge in your winter wheat, possibly even this fall if you need to. Just do everything you can to end up with the best crop possible next spring.
Now, one of the weeds that you may be after controlling in your wheat fields is our Weed of the Week. We'll show you how to stop this tough weed later in the show.